Allora, buon pomeriggio da questa magnifica sala, come vedete, del Centro Studi Americani, il nostro Centro Studi che ospita, come sapete, la più grande biblioteca di testi americani fuori dagli Stati Uniti. Ed è un gran piacere per tutti noi ospitare questo pomeriggio un giornalista che negli Stati Uniti non ha bisogno di presentazioni, ma lo presento a chi in Italia non lo conosce, Jonathan Karl, che è il Chief Washington Correspondent per la rete televisiva ABC News ed è il co-conduttore di ABC This Week. Perché Jonathan è qui da noi al Centro Studi Americani? Perché venerdì riceverà un premio molto significativo, premio Urbino, per il quale il Centro Studi Americani è da tempo partner e io sono molto felice di avere qui Jonathan Karl e di intervistarlo insieme al collega Oliviero Bergamini, responsabile esteri del Tg1 della Rai. First of all, I don't know if the timing could be better. Let me ask the first question that everyone is looking for an answer. Donald Trump can celebrate his first 60 days at the White House, and everyone in the political world is talking about what will be remembered as the signal chat, the chat in which Vice President J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth and many other officials have demanded more European military spending and questioned the continent value. So will you tell us what is your opinion about the so-called mistake? Michael Waltz added Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor of The Atlantic, to the chat. And what really happened, in your opinion? Was a mistake or was done on purpose?
Well, am I right on the microphone here? Is that okay? Great. So, look, this is an extraordinary story. I mean, you have to think of the context, the broader context here, which is the Republicans had made a huge issue of Hillary Clinton communicating with a private email server, including some documents that were marked as classified. And this was seen as a tremendous violation of the law and irresponsible use of sensitive information. And now here we fast forward, Donald Trump is president for the second time, and the very people who had made a huge issue out of Hillary Clinton's use of private emails are communicating through a private text message situation, Signal, which is, look, we have laws in the United States where documents, official records must be preserved. Communications between high-ranking officials, first and foremost. And this is an app, Signal, which I use. I don't know if you use Signal. I use Signal from time to time. I usually don't get war plans sent to me, by the way. But the whole notion Signal works is that they disappear and they're inaccessible for anybody to see. This is, I think, clearly a mistake. I can't even begin to imagine how it would be done intentionally. And I think that it's a mistake that, for all he has said publicly, truly upsets Donald Trump. And maybe not for the reasons you expect. I think the reason why Trump is very upset about this is because it was Jeffrey Goldberg. Jeffrey Goldberg is a prominent American journalist. He is obviously the editor of The Atlantic, and he has published and written some stories that have been highly damaging to Donald Trump. Trump does not like Jeffrey Goldberg. So the idea that his national security advisor would be communicating under any circumstances with Jeffrey Goldberg is a problem. And then that he was communicating with him on a secret app that was intended to try to, keep those conversations secret, I think is also deeply problematic to Trump. I think that's the notion of him even talking to him on Signal. But now he brought him in, I think, truly accidentally into this chat and was sharing very, very sensitive information. I think it's obviously it's a huge story right now in the United States, and it's one that I think we have not heard the last of.
May I ask you, there's another side to the story.
Yes.
What the people in the chat said about Europe.
Yes.
These freeloading, pathetic
Yes.
Europeans. The question is this just people being honest about what Americans, or at least some Americans, have always thought about Europe? Or is this really something new and radically different in the way, in the relationship between the United States and Europe? Because as Europeans, we read it this way, Trump, this administration is altering in a very fundamental way the transatlantic relationship. Or was something like that already latent in the States and now it's just coming to the surface?
Look, before I address that directly, I think it's important to say that I think that for Americans, the transatlantic relationship before, now, and in the future is something that's seen as very important. We truly value our ties with Europe, our friendships, our long-standing. First of all, so many Americans are the descendants of Europeans, or Italian Americans, or French Americans, or German Americans, or British. I mean, I think that there's a lot of rhetoric currently from our political leaders about Europe not shouldering the burden it needs to shoulder. Those are, some of those are legitimate questions. I heard Barack Obama raise such questions. I heard George W. Bush raise questions about, the issue of NATO, of military spending by our NATO allies. And Trump doesn't seem to fully understand. He thinks these are dues, but it's actually obviously the percentage of GDP that goes to defense. But he's like, they owe us, they've been ripped. I mean, it's a little different than that. But the issue of Europe taking up more of the burden, particularly the cost burden of NATO, is not unique to this administration. But I think that there's a divide within the Trump administration and within the Republican Party, even more pronounced over what the relationship with Europe is and should be. And look, Trump has been a critic of NATO for a long, long time. And that hasn't changed, and it's, if anything, become more intense.
Jonathan, can you help us, Italian journalists and the Italian public opinion, what is going on the economic side?
Yeah.
We are listening since the first day, even before Donald Trump will arrive to the White House, that the president quickly pushed an America First trade agenda. But on the other side, we are watching what is going on Wall Street. So my question is double. How Wall Street, how the finance is reacting with the White House decision, and do you think it will last, this kind of decision? It's just the beginning of something even dangerous for the European trade, or not?
So I think there are two things. First of all, Trump is a big supporter of tariffs. He thinks that tariffs can accomplish many things for the United States, including protecting American manufacturing, including bringing revenue into the Treasury. And he thinks that tariffs, in contradiction to economic studies for a long time. He thinks that tariffs can be a good instrument both of economic policy, trade policy, foreign policy as a way to leverage and get what you want out of your friends and your foes on the world stage. So Trump likes tariffs. That's number one. Number two, he wants a strong economy. He wants the stock market to be high. He pays attention to where the stock market is. The success or failure of his administration will largely be dependent on where the economy is. And he's seen the market reaction every time he moves on tariffs. Down. And he's going back and forth and back and forth. And I think the latest indications are, scaling back some of what he was planning to do on April 2nd. And it's funny, he talks about April 2nd being the day these so-called reciprocal tariffs go into effect. He didn't want to make it April 1st because in America we have April Fool's Day. I mean, it's a very, kind of a strange situation. But these are two very contradictory impulses that Trump has. And I think that the second one, and the need to have a strong economy and a strong stock market, will have a moderating influence on the first, which is his inclination to impose tariffs broadly, deeply, across the board. I don't know where it's going, but he has seen how the market reacts to his ideas that tariffs are the magical solution. And they don't like it.
And it will last or not?
I think that it will. I think that he's not going to give up his idea that America has faced a global trade environment which is not fair to American consumers and American business. So tariffs are going to be an instrument of Donald Trump's economic trade policy. It will last, but I don't think it's going to be as dramatic as what he has mentioned. Are we going to see our 200% tax on European wine? I don't know. I think that I think he will turn it down, but he's not going to give up the idea of the tariffs.
We hope so for our wine.
Yeah. Well, we hope those of us that like Italian wine,
Bring back some olives on your way back.
Yeah. No, but he's got this idea that tariffs are a very powerful tool, and he knows that most economists disagree with him.
Tariffs are something that connect the first Trump term. He was in favor of tariffs then and now, maybe more radically so, but a new thing is Elon Musk. He wasn't there in the first term. So two questions about Elon Musk. I see this like all these protests that are coming up in town halls and so on against Dodge, against the firing of federal workers and so on. How relevant are they? Are they really like a measure of people turning against the Trump administration for what Musk is doing, or is it like the Tea Party as used to be, like organized protests that are not so significant in terms of broader consensus?
Yeah.
And the second question is like a broader question. Elon Musk, Donald Trump, everybody says, well, other people say, eventually they will fall out. Eventually they fight because they are two strong personalities. And, Elon Musk is doing that thing, Dodge, but again, he's having a backlash. So what do you see in the future about this relationship?
First of all, I think that Trump likes having Elon Musk around. He's the richest guy in the world. Trump loves money. Success. He's the richest guy in the world, and he talks about how much he loves Donald Trump. I mean, this is something he likes having that around. So I don't think that Trump is going to wake up tomorrow and push Elon Musk out. But he also likes to be able to rein him in. So Elon Musk has had a tremendous influence over these first 60 or so days. I mean, Trump has basically given him free rein, but there was a cabinet meeting a few weeks ago, and Trump made it very clear that you cabinet secretaries, you have the power over who works in your agencies, not Elon. But if you don't do a good job, I'm going to give it to Elon. It's always a threat. So look, there's a lot of tension between some of the most prominent cabinet secretaries. I mean, you know, particularly Marco Rubio at the State Department. I think Treasury Secretary Bessent has had some issues with how Elon Musk has come in, but he's had a tremendous impact. Is it unpopular? Look, the Tea Party movement started in opposition to Obamacare. And healthcare is something that affects everybody. Not everybody in the country is affected by what Elon Musk did. There are about 2.2 million federal employees. Certainly their lives have been affected. And they haven't all been fired, not close, but every single one of them faces the uncertainty. They're getting these emails, you know, demanding that they list their 5, you know, top things that they've done over the week. And if they haven't done it, the suggestion is they'll be fired. I mean, it's really made, you know, 2.2 million people uneasy, and they all have families and they all are parts of communities. And yes, there is concerns about what Elon Musk has done. There are also, I think, a lot of people that say it's about time that the way our government operates gets shaken up and made more efficient. And look at what Elon Musk has done. He's created Tesla. He's created SpaceX. He's a tremendously successful person, and Trump has brought him in, and he's going to make our, you know, our government work more efficiently, just like he's done with his companies. So I think that some people like what he's done. Some people are deeply concerned.
But there's no surge again.
I don't think that you're seeing yet a huge surge that's comparable to the Tea Party.
Let's come to the Russia topic.
Russia.
So everyone is uncertain about what is the real fascinating relation between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
They know each other, and we would like to know your opinion about what is the personal relation between them and the political international link between the two countries, because something is really changing and very quickly. Talking about Ukraine and not only. So what's your opinion?
Look, and I'll tell you what I know. I'll tell you the reporting as opposed to my opinion. My opinion probably doesn't really matter very much on this. So I'll tell you what because I've observed it. This is a huge topic you've raised. Rhetorically, in his first term, Donald Trump was very close to the Russian position on a number of things. I mean, he went in Helsinki and famously said that he trusted Vladimir Putin more than he trusted U.S. intelligence. He echoed Russian talking points on a whole range of issues in his first term. But as a policy, the Trump administration had a very tough policy towards Russia that was consistent with much of Europe. Because you had people like Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who was very much a Russia hawk, Defense Secretary Mattis, again, very much a Russia hawk. And so the actual policies and actions of the Trump administration were not pro-Russia, even if the rhetoric coming from the president was often pro-Russia. Now, fast forward to the second administration, the rhetoric is still very much, sometimes outright echoing Russian propaganda. I mean, Donald Trump himself seemed to suggest that it was Zelensky that started the war in Ukraine. I mean, I think that, you know, usually when you send your tanks across the border, that means you're the one that's invaded. So, you know, rhetorically, he's echoed a lot of what Putin himself says about the war. Where's it going to go? His foreign policy advisors are not the same as they were last time, but Marco Rubio and Mike Waltz, his Secretary of State, and his National Security Advisor, are both prominent Russia critics. They were huge supporters in Congress of Ukraine. So, but You also have Steve Witkoff, who is the envoy, who again seems much closer to what Donald Trump, the way he talks about Russia. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence. Look, I don't know where this is going, but I think it is significantly different from the first term. And there's a reason why Zelensky was so concerned when he came and he had that now infamous meeting with Trump in the Oval Office, because he hears the President of the United States and some of his top advisors, frankly, saying almost the same thing that Vladimir Putin is saying. Now, U.S. still is supporting, Ukraine. There was a brief pause in the military support. It's still there. I don't know where it's going.
Since you mentioned it,
Yes.
since you mentioned it, can we go back a little bit to that famous exchange, right? Because that was
In the Oval
incredible.
Office?
In the Oval
Yeah.
Office, it was incredible. Somebody in the Italian press, I'm sure, in the American press too, said it was a setup, it was unplanned. You've been in that Oval Office, right? You questioned
many times.
Donald Trump, and so you know the dynamic. Okay, what do you make out of that situation? Was it like a setup against Zelensky, or he made mistakes by reiterating the fact that he needed, assurances about security? There have been different interpretations.
Yep. Okay. So my read of it is, I see no evidence that it was a setup. And the reason why I say that is, from everything that all of my reporting, Trump wanted that minerals deal, natural resources deal, to be signed. He did not want that thing to blow up and then not have the deal done. So I don't think that the idea that it would get to the point that it was such a confrontation that, the meeting would end and, Zelensky would be basically kicked out of the White House, which is what happened. That said, I think that clearly what you saw, particularly from J.D. Vance, was an effort to provoke Zelensky. They've managed to turn Zelensky into kind of a political, it's a very unusual situation, because, again, the support in the United States for Ukraine, I think, is very strong. Doesn't mean that there's huge support for, a continuing, for a continued war against Russia that is effectively financed in large part by the United States. Maybe not. But there is massive support. I mean, you saw it after the invasion, the Ukrainian flags all across the country. Zelensky is a very popular figure in the United States. He's addressed the Congress. But some aspects of Trump's core supporters have managed to turn him into something different. Look,
It was an effort to redefine the perception of Zelensky.
Yes, 100%. And so, Vance, I think, tried to provoke him, and it worked, and he was provoked. I think that Zelensky, didn't do himself any favors by how he responded to that. I mean, you saw the way Starmer had come in, and Macron had come in, and that same week, you had 3 meetings, all taking place in the Oval Office. And Starmer and Macron did what so many world leaders do, and they praised Donald Trump, and you're going to do this all right, while also making the point that we have to support Ukraine against this Russian, aggression. And Zelensky was unable to do that. Now, you can understand the passion. I mean, if you were in his shoes and you're hearing basically you're getting blamed for your own country getting attacked, I mean, I can understand, but it wasn't a particularly effective. And then he was given the opportunity to apologize. He did an interview, very importantly, right after on Fox News with Bret Baier, and he didn't and now since he's kind of, dialed it back. But it was a bizarre meeting in the Oval Office, as bizarre as one we've ever seen.
It will be history.
Yes, for
and
sure.
you were quite lucky to be there. we are talking about Donald Trump, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, but what is going on the Republican Party? While congressional Republicans were pleased to have a Republican president, maybe others were uneasy about Trump style at the moment on one side. So my question is double. What's going on inside the Republican Party? And is there the Democratic Party preparing any reaction, or they try to show themselves dead in order not to make the emperor taking care of them?
Right. Well, you asked me earlier, what's the big change between the first administration and the second administration with Trump? This is a huge difference. When Trump got the nomination in 26 and against everybody's expectation, won the presidency in 2016, it was almost a hostile takeover of the Republican Party. And you had significant figures in the elected leadership of the Republican Party that were not fully all in on Donald Trump. Mitch McConnell, the Senate leader, of course, Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House, and many other figures in Congress who were not, who did everything they could to try to prevent Trump from taking over their party. And then once he won, they had to work with him, and they did work with him, but they were never like, we love Donald Trump and all things Donald Trump and whatever Donald Trump says. But now the Republican leadership is very much all in with Donald Trump. I mean, we do have a Senate leader, Senator John Thune, who, has been a Trump critic from time to time. So you do have little pockets, but look, the Republican electorate in the United States, 90% think Donald Trump's doing a great job. And these people are ultimately elected as in their Republican primaries by people that love Donald Trump. So they are not going to cross Donald Trump, in any significant way.
And the Democrat?
Democrats are trying to find their way. The Democratic Party is facing something of an existential crisis. What do they stand for? How do they take on Donald Trump? You saw this on display when Trump gave his State of the Union address. And some people announced that we're going to boycott. We're not even going to go. And then some people walked out in the middle. And then some carried signs of protest. And some, dressed in different colors to try to express their discontent. It all looked like a chaotic mess. And the messaging was not, one Democratic member of Congress actually got thrown out of the State of the Union address for standing up and waving his cane and interrupting Donald Trump. Democrats haven't quite figured out what the message is. They haven't quite, there's not widespread agreement over why Trump won, why Kamala Harris lost. Some people say, well, it was all Joe Biden's fault because he made this decision to run again. And then by the time he dropped out, it was too late to do anything. Some people say it's Kamala Harris's fault. She was too far to the left. Some people say it's Kamala Harris's fault because her campaign was too far to the right. Because although she had been a very progressive liberal Democrat, she ran much more in the middle and had Republicans who don't like Trump campaigning with her and speaking at her convention. But they haven't figured out what is the lesson. Why did they lose? Until they figure out why they lost, it's unclear what the path forward will be. But right now, look, Trump is moving very quickly. Some of what he's doing is very unpopular. Some of what he's doing is very popular. The border, certainly controlling illegal immigration. He's done some very controversial things that have, some of the elites upset with what he's doing, but the American public likes to see that the border has gotten under control. The talk of the tariffs and what it's done to the economy has made people very uneasy. And if Americans are suddenly paying higher prices because of big tariffs, that's going to be a big problem. And the stuff that Elon Musk is doing has people uneasy. Like I said, some support, some, troubled, but where is it going to go? So I think one of the things Democrats know they can do is kind of watch and see where the public goes. Yeah.
We had the chat earlier and we talked about journalism, American journalism.
Yeah.
What's the state of health of
Yeah.
American journalism? And you mentioned that the truth is under attack.
Yeah.
Okay. Because first is now you mentioned the border is under control, but actually, you know, the numbers of the immigrants had gone down already before
Yeah.
Trump took over.
Yes.
So
And
it's
then
really, it looks really hard to have hard facts about which to debate,
Yeah.
right? So give us your general assessment. And the question I want to ask you, Jorge, is truth going to win, going to have a comeback, or must we, or should we, you know, I don't know what you say, give up on the
Yeah.
hope that truth is going to be like the bedrock of democracy and it's going to just be a battle of propagandas or how good different agents communicate.
I forget who said it, but maybe it was Mark Twain. So everybody attributes stuff to Mark Twain. So I'm going to say it was Mark Twain. Said, you know, a lie will make its way around the world before the truth can put its shoes on. You know, lies can spread. And that was said before Twitter, okay? And before Elon Musk bought it and made it X. Look, the ability to spread misinformation has always been there. There has always been misinformation. Disinformation has often been a tool that has been used to control societies, to control people. What's different now is the ability to spread it, to create it. The combination of social media and artificial intelligence is a potentially toxic combination that gives lies an even quicker head start than the truth. And I think it may be our single greatest challenge. And it's not a challenge that's because Donald Trump will say things that aren't true. He does. But that's only part of it. It's the way we get our information now and the sophisticated ways in which a hostile entity can fool people and convince people that up is down, that day is night. And it's very sophisticated and it's very troubling.
Always talking about media. The first Trump was strongly supported by Rupert Murdoch and his Fox Television. At that time, Roger Ailes was still alive, I guess. Oh, nowadays, Wall Street Journal, Rupert Murdoch, most important tool, apparently is fighting, even if morbidly, is fighting Donald Trump. How do you explain this change of behavior from the Murdoch empire?
Well, you know, look, and by the way, I used to, many years ago, it's when I first met Donald Trump, I worked for the New York Post. And this is a long time ago, but there were 2 years where I actually worked for Rupert Murdoch. Look, Murdoch has always had a complicated, and his news organizations have always had a complicated relationship with Trump. It's been pretty well established that Murdoch was looking for another, you know, Republican to come in once Trump left the White House the first time around. And, you know, it was also pretty well established that Rupert Murdoch was adamantly opposed to the idea of J.D. Vance being Donald Trump's running mate and was pushing Doug Burgum for a time. And at the very last minute, when it looked like Doug Burgum was not going to be Trump's running mate, was, you know, pushing Marco Rubio. The Wall Street Journal editorial page has been a consistent critic of protectionism and tariffs. The Wall Street Journal editorial page has been critical of what Donald Trump has tried to do, some of it, a lot of it, using the Justice Department to go after Trump's enemies, to punish law firms that have the temerity to represent Trump critics. So, you know, I mean, Murdoch is how old now? 93, plus? How old is Rupert Murdoch now? And he,
90 and fifth wife.
yeah, okay, there you go. So, but he does, you know, own Fox News. He owns the Wall Street Journal. He still owns the New York Post. He owns, you know, media entities all around the world. He still talks to Donald Trump. He was in, you know, to see Donald Trump at the White House not all that long ago. But it's always been a complicated relationship. It's not simply a we support all things that you do. It's never been that. And by the way, Fox News, I should say, has, you know, is a news organization, has some really good journalists. It's not, you know, they have their primetime lineup, which is, you know, very much, you know, pro-Trump, all things Trump. But it's a 24-hour news channel, and they've got some serious journalists that do serious journalism.
So we shouldn't watch prime time. We should watch all the other
No,
times.
look, I believe you watch stuff that challenges you. So, you know, I mean, I tell my Democratic friends, you need to spend time watching Fox News. I tell my Republican friends,
for sure.
you need to spend some time watching MSNBC. Watch Rachel Maddow, watch Sean Hannity. You know, the opposites. You know, you need to see what's going on, understand where people are coming from.
Picking up from this subject, okay. When Trump was inaugurated, it was stunning to see Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk standing there in the Capitol Rotunda. It's commonplace to think that these huge media organizations, huge social media organizations are even more powerful than governments, even more powerful than anything that has been around in the history of mankind. Why were they there? Are they following what they perceive to be the feeling of the time, the spirit of the time, or do they want to get something from Trump? You know, it was kind of surprising. You're the most powerful man in the world, in a way. I mean, Elon Musk wants to, you know, take us to Mars and solve civilization's problems, but that's not the attitude of Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos. So what do they have to gain by, you know, and Jeff Bezos forbid the Washington Post from endorsing Kamala Harris. So why are they doing it?
Look, first of all, why does Trump want them there? Let me reverse your question, then we'll go.
What's the need for any of them?
So Steve Bannon, who, as you know, was Trump's chief strategist and a very prominent outside ally and a very big critic of Elon Musk. So we'll put it that way. So this was basically like his triumph, bringing those people in, and he's like, ha, you know, I won. You're here to pay tribute to me. And I can summon the richest people in the world, literally 1 and 2. And Zuckerberg's not that far behind. And then, like, the head of NVIDIA, you know, Trump has said, he's like, he wasn't there. I mean, he's like, why? I wanted to be there. So I could have had him. I could have had that guy Jensen. He could have been there. Look, you know, it was like, so Bannon said it was like trophies. It was like having trophies on the wall. You know, there they are. Why are they there? I think that they fear that that they see that Trump made it very clear as he was running this time around that this would be that retribution would be a big part of his presidency. And look, it's just an extraordinary thing. He was thrown off of Instagram. He was banned from Facebook. He was banned from Twitter. He believes that Facebook, you know, helped Joe Biden in 2020. So if a vindictive, incoming, powerful president with a full majority for his party is coming into power, ready to go after you, I guess you're going to show up and you're going to go and you're going to kiss that ring because you are really big and you are really powerful. But that means you are a very big and very powerful target. So
you said kiss the ring.
Yes, there was so. By the way, so this is something I've that Trump has marveled about privately. But Zuckerberg came to see him, you know, at Mar-a-Lago. Had lunch with him at Mar-a-Lago during the transition. Zuckerberg was in Hawaii at the time.
Was he?
Hawaii.
Okay.
And he flew from Hawaii to have lunch, and then he flew back.
That means
That's a long
something.
way, you know?
That means something.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we have just a couple of questions and then
Yeah.
we'll leave you to the beautiful sightseeing
Yes,
and
yeah.
visiting Rome.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
I wonder what is going on in a world, talking about economy, a word I really don't know very much about, but Donald Trump and Melania Trump looks apparently know quite well. I'm talking about Bitcoin and everything is running around.
So what's your question?
My
So-
question is, what is the goal of Donald Trump about the electronic money?
Yeah. You know, look, Trump is he likes self-promotion. He likes marketing himself. I mean, one of the unusual things is to watch him as he was running for president. He was selling these digital trading cards, NFTs, like these, like, I mean, it's very unusual to see like a guy like, and by the way, some of them were amazing. One of them showed him curling the Liberty Bell. And he's like, you can buy these for $99, and it's like you get something on your, like a little image on your computer. He was selling Trump Bibles. You see the Trump Bible? It was the only Bible endorsed by Donald Trump. Did you know that? $59.99. You could get one. Tennis shoes, $399, more expensive than the Bible, But you can't wear the Bible, you can wear the tennis shoes. So he sells and he markets everything, and any way he can make a buck off this stuff, he doesn't hide it. This is him. This has been him back when he was selling Trump water and Trump vodka and Trump wine. By the way, Trump wine's still for sale, not subject to tariffs, made in Virginia. So he was a critic of Bitcoin and digital, whole idea of digital currency, until like he saw that the people that are doing it really liked him, and maybe there's a chance for him to get in on this. So I don't know. All I can tell you is the one-time critic of cryptocurrency is now a big supporter of cryptocurrency. There's talk of a Bitcoin reserve, kind of like we have the gold at Fort Knox. By the way, there was the conspiracy theory that they thought the gold was gone. It's there. So, I don't think Trump spends a lot of time thinking about cryptocurrency, but he has, people around him. He has spoken at the Bitcoin conventions. His former, not campaign manager, one of the top people on his campaign, Chris LaCivita, did not go into the White House. He's gone to a cryptocurrency operation. So look, he likes it. I don't know if he fully understands it or what he really wants to do with it, but he likes it.
I think our time is up. What do you say, Maria?
Huh?
Abbiamo finito, che dici?
Sì.
Yeah.
Just a curiosity. You mentioned it before, Steve Bannon.
Yes.
What will be the role of Steve Bannon in the next few months? He will be the winner or the loser in his fight with Elon Musk?
Isn't he going to be here in Italy? What's the place where he's training the future leaders of Europe? It's closed. Okay, it didn't work out too well. Okay, well, I thought maybe ambassador to Italy. Look, I think that Bannon is a very prominent figure in that whole media ecosystem of Trump's most fervent and diehard supporters. And I think that Bannon will be there and be a figure in that movement long after Elon Musk has gone on to something else. That doesn't mean that Elon Musk is going to fade away anytime soon or Trump's going to have a falling out on him. But I think that in terms of the person that's in touch with the movement, the MAGA movement, the Trump movement, that is Steve Bannon, and it's not Elon Musk.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you for being with us here at the Center for American Studies. Grazie per averci seguito, o chi ci ha seguito in questa, speriamo, interessante, per noi sicuramente lo è stata, conversazione. E grazie ancora e a presto, alla prossima occasione.
Domande? Ok, voglio chiedere addirittura.
So what's your
Do you-
plan of visiting Rome?
We got in yesterday and we've, you know, we've,
But you're going to
Urbino tomorrow morning,
Okay,
yeah,
so you
yeah.
have
And then,
tonight.
and then tonight, yeah, and then we're back, we spend a day. You have something, I'm happy to.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Paolo Mazzoletti. I'm a member of the board,
Yes.
Centro
Oh,
Studi Americano. Your enlightening conversation was
Yeah.
interesting,
Thank you.
very interesting. So I congratulate me. I just want to make ask a question about public opinion.
Yeah.
Because you are a chief
Yeah.
Washington correspondent, so you know the establishment of Washington. What about the constituency? We know the first administration of Trump, we have seen it.
Yeah.
Now we are seeing the second administration. And I tell you, European public opinion are flabbergasted.
Yeah.
Very. Yeah. That's what I think the feelings
Yeah.
of European public opinion is that. What about the public opinion in the United States? What about the constituency? He won. He
Yeah.
won.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just give you a short answer because I mean, we do a lot of polling in the United States. And there's already, you know, he's been in office 60 plus days. His approval rating is in virtually all the polls is below 50%, but not much below 50%. It's actually, he's more popular now than he was when he first came in. But there's a lot of, I mean, there's more than half the country that doesn't like what they're seeing. And the Democrats have their own problems. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Stock exchange.
Yep, yep, yeah. Economy. Does the economy do good? Does it do bad? Anyway, thank you. Thank you. Oh, fantastic. Great.
If you need anything from Rai,
I will send you my, my contact.
please do,
Yes.
please do. Really, if you need anything, just
Yeah.
give me a call and.
Yeah.
You
Thank
want
you.
to interview anybody.